Good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer's hearings for January 11th, 2012. My name is Laura Stotler, and I will be conducting the hearings today as Planning Hearing Officer. We have 3 cases, and all the relevant exhibits are posted on the panel located directly behind me. I want to make an announcement first that our first case at 1023 East Colorado Street, Unit D, conditional use permit case number PCUP 2011-0118. The applicant is Domus Design. The owner is Colorado Shops, LLC. This project is going to be taken off calendar. It's not going to be continued to a date certain. So at the time this item comes back, it will be subject to renotice. And with the remaining 2 cases that we have, item number 2 includes a standards and setback variance, and item number 3 includes a conditional use permit and parking reduction permit. So for variances, under the provision of Title 30, Chapter 30.43 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. First, that the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. 2, that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. 3, that the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And 4, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. For the conditional use permits, under the provision of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if the 4 required findings are present. They are that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property, and 4, that adequate public and private facilities, including utilities, landscaping, parking, and traffic circulation, are or will be provided for the proposed use. We also have an application for a parking reduction permit, and those are required to meet the criteria of subsection A of section 30.32070 and table 30.32B for the project. And those are described in the staff report that's at the front counter. If the evidence presented at in the application and at this hearing meets the criteria just described, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of these hearings were accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper, and also posted on the city's website. So the hearings are going to proceed as follows. First, I'll read a description of the application request. Then I'll read the reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The case planner will then make a brief overview of the case, give an analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward stating both name and address, and will ask to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. I just want to stress that's 15 minutes for the entire party for the applicant. So if you have multiple members, make sure you budget your time correctly. Others in support of or in opposition to the application, interested parties will then be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and addresses. And due to the number of people here, I'm going to give a 2-minute time limit for each of those speakers. Lastly, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers, and he will be given a 5-minute time limit for that. The hearing will be closed and the case will be taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who have responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses. And also, you must have also included your name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeals provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision, and the notice of appeal shall be filed with the Building and Safety Division located on the first floor of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of these speaker forms and provide them to our staff. I would also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officers' meetings are recorded on tape and are part of the public record. So I also want to let you know that we're going to be taking the cases out of order. We already dealt with item number 1. The second case that we'll be taking will be located at 2284 Honolulu Avenue, also located at 3704 Ocean View Boulevard, is conditional use permit PCUP 2011-019 and parking reduction permit case number PPRP 2011-004. The applicant is John Adams, Architects Orange, on behalf of Starbucks Coffee Company. The owner is Bruce Meyer. This is an application for a conditional use permit to allow a fast food restaurant located at 2284 Honolulu Avenue, 3704 Ocean View Boulevard, and a request for a parking reduction permit to not provide 14 parking spaces located at 2284 Honolulu Avenue, 3704 Ocean View Boulevard in the CR Commercial Retail Zone, described as Lot 44, track number 1701. With that, Brad, did you want to go over the comments that we've received from other departments and from interested? You'll include in the present? Okay. Then we'll go directly to staff's presentation.
Morning, Ms. Stotler. Presented before you is a conditional use permit, case number PCUP 2011-019, and a parking reduction permit, case number PPRP 2011-004, as mentioned, located at 2284 Honolulu Avenue and 3704 Ocean View Boulevard. The proposed tenant is a Starbucks Coffee Company. The subject proposal is to change the use from a general retail business to a fast food restaurant without providing 14 additional parking spaces. The new fast food restaurant is required to obtain a conditional use permit in the CR Commercial Retail Zone. A parking reduction permit is required due to the change in use from retail to fast food, which requires an additional 14 parking spaces that cannot be provided on site. The general plan for the subject area and property is regional commercial. The zone is CR, which stands for commercial retail. The building in which Starbucks will be occupying is located on the southeast corner of Honolulu Avenue and Ocean View Boulevard. The subject site is a 6,720 square foot rectangular lot that slopes down toward the south. Currently, there are five parking spaces at the rear, which are accessed off the alley. The existing building contains 3 tenant spaces, addressed as 2280 Honolulu Avenue, 3706 Ocean View Boulevard, and 2284 Honolulu Avenue, which is east of the subject tenant space. The vacant tenant space located at 2280 Honolulu Avenue, which is east of the space, is 1,000 square feet. Color Me Mine, which was the existing business at the subject location, is moving from the subject tenant space to 2280 Honolulu Avenue, just to the east on the same property. The third tenant space at 3706 Ocean View Boulevard is located behind the subject space along Ocean View Boulevard and is a 600 square foot retail surf shop. The subject fast food restaurant will be 1,768 square feet. It should be noted that the subject space is currently 2,122 square feet. The tenant is proposing to reduce the floor area by moving part of the building facade back to create a 354 square foot outdoor area, which is adjacent to both Honolulu and Ocean View. Subject property is located within the Montrose Shopping Park, which has 2 city-owned parking lots located within 500 feet of the subject property. One of the city lots, Lot 3, is located north of Honolulu Avenue, is accessed from Florencita Drive, This lot has 308 parking stalls, which are shared with all businesses in the area. The second city-owned lot is south of the subject site and is accessed from Market Street, Broadview Drive, and the alley to the south of the site. This parking lot has 95 parking spaces and is also shared by the businesses in Montrose. In relation to the comments from other departments, the Police Department and Traffic Engineering Division did not have any concerns regarding this application. The Neighborhood Services Division had concerns regarding impacts to parking and is requesting a condition of approval that the business comply with the fresh air ordinance. Glendale Water and Power, Electrical Engineering is requiring a transformer be placed on site. As of the writing of this staff report, the transformer is to be located at the rear of the building in an alcove that will be screened from the alley by a wall, which meets the city zoning requirements. In relation to the conditional use permit application, the applicant is requesting to change the use or subject tenant space from retail to fast food restaurant. The conditional use permit is required for fast food restaurants in the CR zone. The use becomes a fast food restaurant once there is more than 8 seats within the restaurant and has no waiter or waitress service. The applicant is proposing to have 23 seats inside and 13 seats in an outside patio area. The outside patio area is not included in the parking calculation since it is an exterior area adjacent to the right-of-way. Staff believes the findings can be made in a positive way for the conditional use permit. There's 4 required findings. As it relates to the parking reduction permit, the site is located in a multi-tenant commercial building and is mentioned as part of the Montrose Shopping Park. Shopping Park is similar to a large outdoor mall whereby patrons park in one spot and walk to the various shops, services, restaurants in the area. Presently, there are 3 tenant spaces on the site. The proposed restaurant is 1,768 square feet, as mentioned, and 5 spaces located in the back are used by the surf shop. Starbucks is planning on using the neighboring parking lots for their employees and patrons. The previous use required 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet of floor area. The proposed fast food restaurant will require 12.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of floor area. Based on the above parking requirements and the fact the applicant is reducing the space by 354 square feet, the proposed fast food restaurant will require 14 additional spaces as per section 30.32.030, subsection B5. A parking reduction permit is required because the applicant is unable to provide the required 14 spaces on site. The applicant has prepared a parking study for the Montrose Shopping Park. The document provides information regarding available public parking in the vicinity and hours of operation and parking demand during and on and off peak hours for the proposed business. The applicant has stated that their peak hours of operation are from 5:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., which is earlier than the surrounding businesses utilizing the city-owned lots and street parking. The majority of the businesses in Montrose typically open at 10 a.m. Due to this fact, there should be a surplus of available parking for Starbucks. The differentiation between hours of operation and peak parking demand should not cause a conflict for the demand for the parking in the surrounding city-owned lots or on-street parking spaces. The business area is known for its wide variety of shops, restaurant, and service areas. The Montrose Shopping Park is pedestrian-oriented and by its nature encourages patrons to walk around the area. The proposed coffee shop, in staff's opinion, will complement the existing shops and...
We don't need another damn Starbucks. We got coffee bean right.
Please be quiet and let
We got coffee bean right across the street.
let the planner speak, please.
Remember that. It's just a money thing.
In addition, the applicant is proposing to have an outdoor patio area at the front of the tenant space. This patio area will contain about 13 seats for customers and will help to improve the pedestrian experience. Staff believes that all the findings for the conditional use permit and parking reduction permit can be made in a positive manner and recommends approval of these entitlements. Staff suggests the planning hearing officer consider the attached findings and conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Would you do me a favor and show me on the map where the proposed Starbucks is and then also where the public parking is located?
On the aerial photograph that we have here, Starbucks is located or would be located. Here's Honolulu Avenue, Ocean View. Be located right at the corner here. There's one parking structure here, which is Lot 3 off of Florencita and Montrose Lane. The other parking spaces for Lot 7 just to the south, across the alley.
Did the audience get a chance to take a look at that?
I can't see it.
Those over here. I mean, those of us who know the area know where it is.
Want to show us on the aerial?
James,
There we go. Okay.
I got it. So here's Honolulu, Ocean View Avenue. The proposed business is located at the corner here. I don't know if everybody can see the mouse or not. Lot 3 is located to the north off of Florencita. And then Lot 7 is to the south.
Okay, thanks. I'd like to call forward the applicant, Mike Abati. You have 15 minutes for you and your team to make a presentation.
Good morning, Ms. Stotler. Thank you very much for the time this morning. Before I start, my name is Mike Abati. I'm the store development manager for Starbucks Coffee Company, 17700 New Hope, Fountain Valley, California. I have with me this morning our team member, Anthony Lee, who is head of our design group in the western part of the country. In addition, our project architect, John Adams, is here as well. So once again, thanks for the opportunity to present our application here today to allow Starbucks to operate our store in Montrose. Clearly the questions come up, why Montrose for Starbucks? We've got a store in La Cañada, we have a store in La Crescenta, we have a store that's located at Verdugo and the 2 freeway, about 3/4 of a mile just due east. And the answer is simple. It's to better serve the needs of our customers within the trade area because they've asked us to do so. None of the above stores that I mentioned offer any kind of current, brand-appropriate representation of our company and its culture today. We really want to provide a very nice third-place experience for our customers, and that environment is going to be absolutely beautiful once we are able to build it out. And that design will be described later by Mr. Lee. Our core values really insist upon our need to be a good neighbor in all the communities that we occupy and to be an active contributor. Investing in those communities is really an important part of our culture. And that's evidenced really by our leadership. Howard Schultz is the CEO of our company. He recently started an organization called Create Jobs for USA, and the Starbucks Foundation donated $5 million for that particular foundation. In addition, we've raised $2 million in the past month and a half selling bracelets in our store. The funds that are being raised go directly to small business owners in local communities that don't have access to capital to grow their businesses, and the goal is that they expand their business and hire new people, creating jobs within these communities. As far as this store locally, we'll employ about 16 to 20 partners. These are good jobs. All of our partners, whether they're part-time or full-time, receive benefits, health benefits. They can participate in our 401k plan, our stock purchase plan. In addition, there's career advancement available at Starbucks. These are good jobs for local community members. Unfortunately, this morning, our district manager, Tim Douglas, could not be here today. His grandfather passed away. Tim is a local kid, grew up in the area, attended local schools. He started in our store, one of our stores in Glendale, in college, and is now a district manager operating 11 stores and has about 120 employees below him. He's a real success story from a local perspective, and I wish he was here to kind of tell you about our culture, because he's been a partner for a very long time. There's many examples of Starbucks locations in similar settings, in kind of a village setting, that do have limited street front parking and community parking areas as well. Sierra Madre, Claremont, Uptown Whittier, Old Town Orange, Larchmont, South Beverly Drive, along with many others. I've personally spoken with several of the surrounding business owners, most of which support our tendency. Of course, there are some that don't, and we understand that. Quiznos, the yogurt shop across the street, Ray's Pizza, but the ones that are most important to me are the ones that are right next to us. The Color Me Mind operator, as well as the restaurant operator, are both in support of our store, and those are our adjacent tenants. And that, to me, seems to be very important. I mean, given the concerns that we've heard over parking and traffic, both of those tenants fully support and understand the synergy of the effect that Starbucks will have, along with the other tenants along Honolulu and Ocean View. Given our core business is the sale of coffee, we're clearly an AM-centric business. Our peak hour of operation, as mentioned, occurs around 8 a.m. in the morning, when only a few, if any, of the other neighbors are even open for business. For the store of this size, that peak period really represents about 15 parking spaces. As the morning goes on, our business cycles down, and heading into lunch, that works well for the eating establishments nearby. Thereafter, we experience a small second peak in the early afternoon, when most other retail businesses are slow. And as the evening approaches, once again, our cycle is slowing down when the retailers and restaurants should normally begin to experience their collective peak hours. My point being, the argument that our business will unduly overburden the area's supply of parking fails to recognize the actual life cycle of our typical business day and how it relates to the surrounding businesses. During our off-peak period, we essentially become an amenity for those customers who frequent the Montrose Shopping Park. And as Mr. Collin mentioned, there are in excess of 400 parking spaces to be shared in this shopping environment, in addition to, that includes the street front parking that was not shown along Honolulu. I did take the liberty of shooting some photos a week ago today at 10 a.m., and I can submit those for you to review. And my camera didn't have a timestamp, but I took a picture of the clock, if you want to. At 10 a.m., our business is cycling down, and Montrose is beginning to pick up. I've been in and around the town multiple times in the early morning, because that's really our main concern, is making sure that that time of day is convenient for our customers. I've observed the activity of level of parking, and you'll see that there's ample street parking, and there's ample parking in the lot both north and south of Honolulu. We really just want to provide, I think, what is a much-needed synergy and create a little bit of energy in the AM portion of the business, as well as providing it during the day and throughout the day. I've also heard the objections around the need for our business in Montrose, given Coffee Bean's store across the street. I can recite quotes and articles from several very reputable sources like the Wall Street Journal, Reuters, Business Week, Slate.com, and several others, who discuss this very phenomenon. The founder of Coffee Bean was quoted as saying in the late 2007 that Starbucks' entry into Southern California market was, quote, the best thing that ever happened to us. Jim Stewart of Seattle Best Coffee, when asked about competing with Starbucks, once said, "You're going to love it. They'll do all of your marketing for you, and your sales will soar." As a matter of fact, Coffee Bean turned the tables around on Starbucks in Orange County after Starbucks entered and purposely located adjacent to or near Starbucks for that very effect. In addition, there's also evidence to show that we do help independent coffee shops as well. Multiple articles that you can find entitled "Don't Fear Starbucks," "Starbucks and Small Business," "Independent Coffee Shops Don't See Starbucks as a Threat Anymore," all point to the age-old concept of pure capitalism and brand loyalty. There's Coke versus Pepsi. There's Ford versus Chevy, Chase and B of A, Ralph's and Vons. The list goes on. You name it, and the market decides for itself based upon their taste and behavioral patterns. We're not coming to Montrose to put anybody out of business. Rather, quite the opposite is true. We want to help bolster the local economy and be profitable at the same time. And we don't think we have to apologize for that. Those are not mutually exclusive goals. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have. At this time, I can yield the rest of my allotted 15 minutes, which I think what are we on, about 6 or 7 minutes left, something like that, to Anthony Lee, and I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today, and we hope for an affirmative decision allowing us to operate a beautiful new Starbucks store in the village of Montrose.
Well, I do have some questions related to your parking reduction permit request.
Okay.
I see that you've submitted information that shows where the parking is located. Do you have any information? Have you done any study at all about what's actually, I mean, I do have a photo here, but how many spaces are actually open when you are having your peak hours? How many parking spaces are available?
Well, the total, I think you heard, is in excess of 400.
Right, but I'm asking during your hours. I understand that in the morning it's vacant. I drove by today, only saw 2 or 3 parking spaces that were actually used. But I'm wondering about the early afternoon, because that's what some of these letters are concerned with, when the other businesses are open, and in the evening, if you could expand on that. Have you done any studies? How many people do you normally have come in? Is there anything to compare it to? You noticed, or you referenced that you have other Starbucks and other village centers. Mm-hmm. Do you have any data from them on what they're, how many
we
people?
don't have specific data that's available today about that. We can provide it to you, of course. We have studies in similar areas that show the parking demand going anywhere from a maximum of 15 spaces at peak hour down to 4 or 5. And that cycle, the cycle looks kind of, kind of a curve-shaped cycle. And as the day goes on, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, evening, the cycle begins to come down again. So it's a maximum of 15 spaces that would be required during peak hour, down to probably a minimum of 5 or 6.
Okay. And you did reference Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. Mm-hmm. Would you say that your parking demands are similar to them, even if your business model is different?
Our business, we're in the same business, so we're.
You were just telling me, so they help each other. They all add on more. They don't. Okay.
Right. There's a definitely a taste for Coffee Bean products. There's definitely a taste for Starbucks products, and there are so many examples in Southern California and in the West that show us near, adjacent to, or across the street from each other, and we coexist just fine.
So you would say that your parking demand then mirrors the same Coffee Bean?
Similar business cycle, for sure.
Then I was listening for the other findings. Brad went over some of the conditional use permit findings. Would you also go over them? You need to make your conditional use permit arguments. So if you want to take a look at them, that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan, that the use and associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare of the environment, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding properties, and that adequate public and private facilities, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided to the proposed use.
I would be happy to read those in the record if you'd like.
Yeah, we just...
Okay. So, pursuant to Section 34.42.030 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit may be granted if the following findings of facts can be made. Starbucks, that the proposed use will be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan. That Starbucks, the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. At Starbucks, the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property, and that Starbucks and the adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use.
But you didn't fill out. You're reading them, but you're not giving me the reasons why that's true. I need to make findings for your, if you want an approval, you need to make the findings of why is your use acceptable. So you're saying you're consistent with a general plan because fast food is allowed in the CR zone, is that what you're telling me, and that your use is consistent with others? Telling me you're providing for uses and facilities that are not detrimental because why?
Well, Ms. Stahler, I think I presented all of that information kind of in a summary form, in a narrative form. I wasn't prepared to follow a particular form. We weren't given that information.
Well, you told me about your business model. You told me that you're a good business partner. But in terms of the facilities and what most of the letters that are coming in here are telling me about the parking and that they're worried about how your business is going to impinge on parking needs and affect other businesses around it. And I'm just not hearing that at all from you.
Well, I think
that's my concern.
I think I did reference our business cycle throughout the day and our peak period versus other retailer and restaurant peak periods, which is what exists on Honolulu today. This is not an unusual environment for us at all, or in the Southern California market or in the United States, as a matter of fact. So I don't have particular data with regard to there are 320 spaces available at 8 a.m. And 190 spaces available at 2 p.m. We didn't become prepared for that, but we do know, based upon our observations and our business experience, that the use is appropriate for the location, given our business cycle, and the concept of shared parking and parking reduction is appropriate here because of the fact that our business cycle is different than those of the surrounding tenants.
Okay. All right. Would you like to have your other members speak?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, good morning. I'm Anthony Lee from Starbucks. I'm the Senior Design Manager for the region, and I'd like to go briefly through the design of our proposed Starbucks here. I don't want to take up too much time, but I'd like to yield some of that time and donate it to our other guest here who might like to share their thoughts and opinion about our proposed occupancy here. Like Brad has mentioned, that we are proposing to take up a 1,700 square foot space, but reduce the overall size to allow for an outdoor seating experience within this existing space. Some of the enhancement that we're looking at in addressing the building in color, texture, and facade treatment is in fitting in line with our current brand shift, and it carries from and it extends from our heritage palette, which backs to the original Pike's Place inspiration from our original first store in Seattle. The finishes are, I believe, also appropriate for the historic, blend of the region and the corridor that we would hope to exist in. The material use and the kind of well-worn use of the material that has been employed here. I know there's a beautiful concrete floor that's currently existing within the space that we are restoring and keeping within the space and celebrating that historic look of the space. The exterior in our efforts to coexist and give a brand that is appropriate to our look and to the community. Again, like I said, it's a combination of textures and color to help bring down the look and the feel of our space to a more residential appeal. So the story has what appears to be, a tall two-story facade, and bringing that down to a more human scale and pedestrian scale will lend itself and help combine with the efforts to recess our storefront and provide that pedestrian and outdoor seating experience for what we perceive would be a more pedestrian environment, since it hosts farmers market and other business venues along Honolulu. That's my presentation. I'll yield the rest of my time for any comments and
Okay.
feedback.
Do you have another member of your team who would like to speak? Okay, then I do have some questions for you about, we do have a North Glendale community plan that was recently adopted. It talks about the Montrose Shopping Park and Spar, it's okay, talks about the Montrose Shopping Park and Spar Heights Business District. It talks about adding sidewalk dining, making things pedestrian scale, talking about adding things such as street furniture, includes a variety of shops, restaurants, and cafes. It's actually in here. I noticed on one of your plans, it looked like you were adding a blade sign, or
Yes.
pedestrian friendly. Okay, I just wanted to point out that is consistent also with the North Glendale Community Plan, as is the use of shared parking lots. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you may want to take a look at this when you go to the Design Review Board, because there's a lot of design guidelines which are included in this document. Brad can give you a copy. You can get it online on the city's website. I didn't hear you mention that, so I just want to make sure that that's accurate. I've described accurately what your project includes.
Correct. And I wasn't aware, but we will thoroughly review that document to ensure that we're in adherence or significantly in adherence to that document.
Okay, and I know there's bicycle parking on the curbs in front of your facility. Are you adding any on your site itself?
We don't plan to at this time.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. I believe you're...
Ms. Stotler, if I may, just for clarification, because I really wasn't understanding the nature of your inquiry about the findings. On Mr. Collins' staff report on page 3, items A, B, C, and D all detail the findings and our compliance with those requirements. So I didn't know if you wanted those read into the record. I think he did a good job of explaining them. So I'm not really sure what.
So if you agree with those, that's fine.
I
It's
do.
just that the staff doesn't make the findings. You need to make the findings. And so that's what I was getting at.
Okay.
The public hearing, it has to be brought up by the applicant.
Does it all need to be read into the record?
You just referenced it, it's fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Next, I'd like to call up Robert Johanna, and you have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Robert Johanna. I'm the property owner of across the street from the proposed Starbucks. I have an issue with the parking. I have between 80 and 85 parking spaces in my shopping center. As of now, I have other people that they are coming in and parking in the parking lot. So if, for whatever reason, if the Starbucks comes in, probably, I'm not sure, some of their people will be parking in our parking lot. Therefore, I have to hire parking lot attendant to oversee other people that they're not supposed to be parking in the parking lot too, that they are. Already I have other customers that they're parking in my parking lot. At the peak hour, there's almost full right now. And my suggestion to the city, if they could designate an area in the public parking for Starbucks, I would appreciate it.
Okay, do you have any more comments?
No?
No? Okay,
Thanks.
thanks. Next, I'd like to call forward Bruce Meyer.
Morning.
Warren, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm the owner of the building, and very sensitive to the Montrose Shopping Park. We bought the building there because we loved the quaintness of it and the intimacy of it. And there was rumors around that we had great intentions of changing things, which we have not. We've been very sensitive to putting in the mom and pops. We have the surf shop. Color Me Mine is locally owned as well, Pepe's and Cucina Rustica. And I just want to mention that I grew up on Larchmont, so I'm very sensitive to a community. And I have dealt with a lot of tenants before, but never anything like Starbucks, who have done everything possible to be a really, really good community member and a good neighbor. They're putting in a kind of, lack of a better word, kind of a lounge, a meeting room, a community table. They're very concerned about the community, and they want to serve the community well. I also want to mention that there are Coffee Bean disciples and Starbucks disciples, and we've had so many people come to us and just are so happy that there's a Starbucks that they can walk to, even though there's a Coffee Bean across the street, and they usually are, very compatible and good neighbors. Just trying to think if there's any, I don't know if you have any questions for me, but anyways, we're just proud to be here, and I think it's going to be a wonderful new addition to the community. I look at Starbucks as an amenity to a shopping area, and I look at the Montrose Community Shopping District as a shopping center. And in the wisdom of the founding fathers, they put those great parking lots there. And not a lot of communities like Larchmont have a base of a resource for parking. So I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the community, and I hope you agree.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to call forward Jim Cohen, followed by Robert Snyder.
Morning.
Morning.
I guess a quick rebuttal to the
And your name for the record, please?
Jim Cohen.
Okay.
The reason that property has that vacancy is originally it was a bookstore that was forced to move because the current owner raised the rates. I helped move them down the street. I've been in Glendale since 1968. First company I worked for moved because there wasn't enough parking. Another job had a company in 1971, moved because there wasn't enough parking in Glendale. Currently, we own 3 properties in Glendale. One is on Honolulu. We have our own private parking, and my concern is the middle of the day where most of the shoppers are. My observation is that I question whether the Starbucks folks will park far enough away in the public parking lots to walk to get their coffee. Anybody who's tried to use the Chase parking lot in the middle of the day knows there's no room there. They have also a full-time person to monitor their parking. They're about 130 feet away. The Quiznos parking is usually full during the middle of the day. Our parking is behind a building on the other side of the street, and we monitor that, and we have notes that go out, and every once in a while a car is towed away because in the middle of the day there is no parking. I think that's it.
So is that no parking available on the street or no parking at all available in the city lots, the municipal lots?
The city lots way below the alley south have parking, but Starbucks and most coffee people, I think the fast food issue is running in, grabbing a quick cup of coffee and getting out. If they can't park within a few steps, I'm not sure that they will. That's the clientele. If the reverse is true, if it's that people are coming there to hang out for the afternoon, that's even worse because then the shoppers will not have a place to park. And I lived through this in Huntington Beach and was on the mayor's committee in 1995 to replace 12 mom-and-pop shops that were deceased because of parking after the fast foods came in.
Okay, thanks. Robert Snyder, to be followed by Mike Moslin.
Yield my time.
Okay.
Mike Moslin, I'm president of Color Me Mine, and my address is 3722 San Fernando Road in Glendale. I'm going to hit this from a little different angle. we're all locally owned. We have franchises in a number of communities across the country, all by local owners who live in the neighborhood. And I'm going to rebut some of the comments that were made about parking being the reason that small mom and pop operators go out of business. It's not the parking that's the problem. It's the Americanas of the world that drag business away from the small mom and pop communities. It's the big shopping centers. We have Color Me Minds in both provincial communities like this and in larger centers. And our sales in the larger centers are way up, while our sales in smaller communities adjacent to larger centers are down. What we need is activity generators on the street, and I'm speaking directly to the welfare of the community and the environment, is that we need to draw more business into Montrose in order to keep activity there. We've seen our sales drop in Montrose when Americana opened up, and to have an activity generator right on that corner is going to create more business and more success on the street. So we hope you'll approve it.
Okay, thanks. Next, I have Randy Gonzalez, followed by Alex Semerjian.
Hi, good morning. My name is Randy Gonzalez, and I'm one of the owners of a business in Montrose at 2138 Verdugo. And my wife and I have owned and operated a number of businesses over the last 20 years in Montrose. And this parking issue has, in the 20 years I've been involved, is always brought up. And I have never seen a parking problem in Montrose in my 20 years. I think I have to agree with staff's investigation that there is plenty of space, and I, as a business owner, welcome an operator like Starbucks. I think their customer base and the loyalty that they have and the way they operate their business would be a huge plus for the community. And I think that the foot traffic has really been a problem on the boulevard, and bringing more customers in to shop at the various stores is a huge plus. And I am all for Starbucks, and I hope you'll see it the same way. Thank you.
Thanks. Alex Semerjian, followed by Kendra Casper.
I'm going to yield my time to Sar. To turn the newspaper.
All right.
Can I use that time?
I'll call you up in a minute. Get the other people. I'm taking them in order in which I received them here. Kendra Casper, followed by Robert Russell.
Madam Hearing Officer, my name is Kendra Casper. I live at 3512 Buena Vista Avenue in Glendale. That's approximately 2 blocks from this proposed Starbucks. I also happen to be a land use attorney. I'm not here representing anybody today, but that is actually how I'm employed. I just wanted to make a few comments. I think that I agree with the 2 speakers who just spoke. I've lived in Montrose for 15 years. I've never once seen a parking problem there. I don't think the problem has anything to do with parking. I think the problem has to do with foot traffic and not having enough people who want to come to Montrose and shop. And I think having a business like Starbucks there invites more people to come, invites more people to engage in the pedestrian experience that is Montrose. We want people to be walking up and down the boulevard, seeing shops, going in, and a place like Starbucks is something that brings that. I think it's good for the other businesses in the community. The more people that come to Montrose, the better. The more opportunities they have to shop in the area, to go to the restaurants in the area, and those type of things as well. I agreed with, I looked at the staff's finding. I'm familiar with the general plan of the city, and as you said, the new community plan that's been adopted, and a business like Starbucks absolutely fits in with the general plan, the new community plan, and I feel like it'll do nothing but help the businesses in Montrose. Thank you.
Thanks. Robert Russell, followed by Tracy Osimo.
Good morning. My name is Robert Russell. That was my fiancée that just spoke. She pretty much hit the nail on the head, as well as the other two speakers before, especially from Color Me Mine. We also own a retail store in the shopping park, and we own a restaurant, and we absolutely welcome this project, and we are in complete support of it. So I hope you approve it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Tracy Osimo, followed by Janet Vandegrief.
Hi, my name is Tracy Ozimo. My office is at 3500 Ocean View Boulevard. I'm a building designer in the area. My office is 2 blocks down from the site. I'd like to speak in favor of the project. I don't think this is a driving destination. I think anybody that wants to go to Starbucks to get a quick cup, they'd be much better served going up to La Cañada, and that's probably what most people would do, I would guess. I think it's much more of a pedestrian destination. As people are walking around, I think then they would stop and get coffee, and I think it will encourage it. I think it will bring a lot more life to the shopping park. Any more business and any that's successful, I think, would be great for the shopping park. I also think it's a positive urban issue, the fact that bringing life to that corner. I mean, when the yogurt store went in on an evening, Friday evening, sometimes it's amazing to see that intersection. There are so many people around. There's so much life around. It's really great going through there, walking through there. And I think bringing a Starbucks to that location will only make things better. Thank you.
Okay. Janet Vandegrief, followed by Chris Vandegrift.
Hi. I am Janet Vandegrift, and I have lived in Glendale in the Montecito Park area for about 21 years. And I am the owner of a boutique at 2225 Honolulu, and I would welcome a Starbucks. Anything that brings in new customers, whether they are there early in the morning, late at night, the middle of the day, driving up and down the street. I have people who, my store has been in existence for over 12 years, and I have people that still come in and say, "Are you new?" And it's because they don't know that we're there. We need more customers. We need more foot traffic. And I don't think it's a parking issue at all, because I'm in the shop 7 days a week, and I see the parking in the back, the big back lot. There's plenty of space in the area, up and down the street, and in the parking lots adjacent to our shops. So I am totally in favor.
Thanks. And Chris?
Good morning. My name is Chris Vandegrift. I'm a resident of Montrose for 57 years, so I'm the newbie on the block. I've seen that the town thrive and have hard times, and I think Starbucks coming in would just be terrific for the area. It helps bring people up to the great community that it is. I'm up there every day for lunch. No parking issues at all. Every single day. And I think that having Starbucks come in would be just a great neighbor, great for the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to call forward Nancy Regrani, followed by, I'm not sure what the first name is, but the last name looks like White. Paige White. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Reggiani, and I'm also a resident of Montrose. I'm not here to address the parking issue, but I didn't know if there would be another meeting. I'm more concerned with the design factor of the building, and I just want to ask that both Starbucks and the planners take into consideration and keep within the flavor of the city. And I'd like to see the signage, kind of reflect the old town that we're trying to maintain in Montrose. I haven't actually had a chance to look at the signs. I do see that they are keeping the structure pretty much the same, which I think will be nice, but I really hope that the committees all work together to make sure that the design fits in with the town. Thank you.
Okay. Paige White, followed by Ted Frankel.
Good morning. I'm Paige White. I'm owner of several properties up there, one being the Burger King and Fratelli's property at 2064 Verdugo Road. Also have another property on Waltonia. Kind of a left-handed compliment. I'm 100% for this and agree with staff's findings. My one complaint is his rents are too low. I heard someone saying that he raised rents, and he has not done that. Anyway, let's talk about the parking. I looked at this same situation, and the reason I'm for competition, even though I have Burger King and Fratelli's there, is it brings more business to the area and more business to my current tenants. I've talked to them about it. They don't have any problems with this. I think it's going to be a good asset, and I did my own parking study for you previously, and when the staff has specifically noted there is a 5 to 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock requirement for Starbucks, and that's what we found with Burger King and some of my other properties. So, again, to reiterate, I'm entirely for it. I think it'll bring business to my tenants as well as the other folks on the street.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks. Ted Frankel, followed by Melinda Clark.
Good morning. Ted Frankel. I've owned Tom's Toys for 15 years. The store's been there since 1967. We don't have a shortage of parking. What we have is a shortage of customers. We have, out of the 5 locations I own 5 different locations, there's no location that I have that has the luxury of parking that Montrose has. Montrose has unbelievable parking. Tom's Toys sales have held up fairly well over the last few years, but it's not based on the traffic that's drawn up the street, which is very lean, but the fact that we draw our own traffic. It would be great to have an additional tenant that would be drawing traffic to the area that would allow me to hire more people, develop more sales, which would be better overall for the community. I'm a very strong believer that the Starbucks will be a major asset to this location. And in all the other locations that I have, it's actually the only location that doesn't have a Starbucks. So I am 100% for it.
Okay, thanks. Melinda Clark, followed by Suzanne Deef.
Good morning. My name is Melinda Clark. I'm the Executive Director of the Montrose Chamber of Commerce up in the area. And as the Chamber of Commerce in the area, we are for profitable businesses coming into the area in available retail spaces. However, we are concerned that allowing any business to come into that space on 2284 Honolulu that is asking for a parking reduction permit will put undue stress on already known parking problem in the Montrose Shopping Park area. I know a lot of people have made statements that there is not a problem with parking. But I think overall, as a community, as a shopping park association, even though there is a lot of parking there, I've heard many people, many businesses saying that there is a parking issue. And so our concern is with that reduction. I know that they have spoken to other property owners. I didn't hear them speaking with the people across the street, Mr. Johanna, or the board sports below. And obviously we're not against any corporation coming in or any company. We're for all businesses. I know that there is undue stress on Mr. Johanna's property in terms of people, parking there who are not patronizing any of his businesses in the area. So that's something we would like you to look at. And also, that's really our statement is the larger issue of the problem of parking in the area. We would hope that the Planning Commission would look into that, possibly putting up signs regarding there is parking in the rear. As you're driving down the street, that would be helpful. Signs as to, like Mr. Johanna said, parking in specific area for Starbucks. So, that's really the concern for us is an overall issue of parking in the area. And if you're going to permit, Starbucks to come in and have less parking, please consider the other businesses that are directly around there. Thank you very much.
Okay. I do have a question for you. Are you aware of any parking problems aside from apparently the Quizno parking lot, that go on in the morning up there between 5:30 and 8:30 in the morning?
I know there are some businesses that are open. It's obviously your fitness. There's the Pilates across the street, directly across the street from the Coffee Bean, and there's there's a pedal spin studio. I'm sure that's not the problem, but I do know at lunch time there is, if you're driving into the area, walking in is different. If you're coming from other merchant places, that south parking lot by Broadview is, there's not usually a space to be found. There's no parking on the street. And obviously, I think if you're coming to Starbucks, your tendency is going to become to want to park below, not to park above. And so, obviously, as a person just coming in, you're going to want whatever available space. You're not understanding that this is for this business or this is for that business. So maybe a sign saying where Starbucks parking is back behind would be helpful, or signs up maybe on the Broadview, on the property on Ocean View, Mr. Johanna's property, about signage. Possibly not parking for the area, or just more direction for people that are coming into the area.
Where the public parking is.
Yeah, but I would have to say there's definitely, obviously we would love more business. We represent all businesses as the Chamber of Commerce, and we would love a business that comes in that's going to bring traffic to the area. We just know that there is an overall parking issue, so just consider that and how you can mitigate that if the Starbucks does come in.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Suzanne D., followed by Grace Clark.
I'm Grace Clark.
Suzanne D., followed by Grace Clark. Sorry.
My name is Suzanne Duff. Excuse me, and I'm just a resident. I don't represent anybody except myself. I tend to walk almost every day, and I walk up to Montrose and sometimes do my shopping at the different stores and stop at the Coffee Bean. I just want to say two things, and one is that in support of the lady that spoke on about the design elements, I'm really interested, and I love interested in the historic aspect of Montrose, and I love the historic nature of many of the buildings. And I know that the Starbucks gentlemen have said that they are preserving the floor as an example, in that their intent is to preserve and to restore the floor. So I just want to reiterate my support for, if this goes ahead, of maintaining the elements of the building that are there, because it used to be a bank, and being very concerned about, I don't understand how is the patio going to impact that floor? I'm in love with that floor that's currently in the building. And if the patio is going to be 350 feet, I don't have a good sense of that, but is that going to then impact the floor? Are they going to take out part of that existing floor?
Okay, the applicant can address that later.
So I would just want to, again, be very concerned about maintaining the historic elements and maintaining, a site that is consistent with the other buildings in the area. And then secondly, parking. I obviously haven't made a study of it. I do think sometimes the parking lots do seem quite full. And I know in the past there have been other businesses that have come into Montrose that have also applied for parking variances. And I have to say I don't know if those have been granted. But it just seems to me that at some point, if variances continue to be granted, it will fill up the parking spaces and it will create a parking problem. And so I just ask that you be aware of that.
Okay, thanks. Grace Clark, followed by Terry Mansky.
My name is Grace Clark, and I live at 3505 Henrietta Avenue in far north Glendale. I used to teach in Montrose, and for 4 years I owned a business down in the 2400 block. I'm concerned about this whole thing. I'm against it because I feel like big business is walking in on us. And this is not what we want. I walk in Montrose. I shop in Montrose. I eat in Montrose. I bring newcomers down there all the time, out-of-town visitors, and they love the small-town feel. I don't want to see that building torn apart. I don't want to see the construction tearing up the street and impacting traffic. I don't want to see traffic in the mornings. I've been by Starbucks in the morning and on the weekend, and the traffic there, the people stop and wait for a parking spot in front. The people are not considerate. I'm not saying that all coffee drinkers are like that, but I do feel that parking is going to be a problem. On weekends when they have special events going on that we all attend, I think this is going to be a high impact on that. And I think that's it. I think I'm in the minority here, but I am against it.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you.
listening.
Terry Mansky, followed by John Bonner.
Good morning. First, let me represent that on behalf of the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, we know that we have, coming into this hearing, a bias. But it's not a bias against competition. The issue is the unique nature of the shopping park, a village, as amply stated in the reference to Larchmont Village by Bruce, who happens to be one of Coffee Bean's landlords in Beverly Hills. And parking is the other issue, of course. First, a word about the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. The Bean was born and brewed here in Los Angeles County in 1963. We operate one coffee house in the 3 area of La Cañada, La Crescenta, and Montrose. One coffee house. Starbucks, and heaven bless them, they have 4 in that area. Okay? We came to the shopping park 9 years ago. We paid premium rent because our landlord provides parking, which is gold in that center. We came to be part of the uniqueness of the Montrose shopping park. And we have built the business over the 9 years to over $1 million a year the hard way. Now, Starbucks, 17,000 stores worldwide, over 10,000 in the United States. By the way, the Bean has less than 3% of that store count in America, is a classic Wall Street icon. And this is, again, a case here where you're coming in with a massive global chain into a unique village atmosphere. It's Main Street against Wall Street in so many ways. And I don't mean to stereotype it. I mean to tell you the truth. My client, a family-run business. Oh, there was a reference to what Sonny Sassoon had to say.
Excuse me, would you please?
Out of context.
Excuse me, would you please speak in the microphone?
I apologize. The reference to Sonny Sassoon's comment was, it's the best thing that ever happened to Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. Let's put it into context. What Starbucks did accomplish for us was to compare their products to our products. Our products are sourced from the top 1% of beans and teas throughout the world. That's not the case with Starbucks. So he welcomed what you could classically call the taste challenge. It had nothing to do with saying that the operations are similar. They're not. They're only similar in the sense that they compete in what everybody calls the coffee house segment. If track record stands, and I have been in charge of the real estate program for many years at Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, you could expect Starbucks to do more than 30% of my client's volume, and we can expect to lose about 10% of our volume. Not catastrophic to us, but catastrophic in the sense that everything we're talking about today about parking, and our store manager will speak to that, is going to go through the roof. We're going to lose the unique village aspect in great element here, and we are going to have major parking problems such that our landlord in our space is probably going to have to add more costs that we and our other tenants, co-tenants in this space pay where we are, because we're going to need a parking monitor. Track record is absolutely to the case that folks will park closest to their desired store that they're going to visit. And the majority of customers in Starbucks, like the majority of customers at Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, typically are destination-oriented. A word about parking itself, if I might add.
Do you want to bring your comments to a close, please?
I will. The last word is about parking. Peak time may start at 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. for both Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, Pete's, Starbucks, etc. But Starbucks' parking needs will continue far greater throughout the day. That's why they're the category killer in sales volume. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks. John Bonner, followed by Colin Lublin and Jose Romero.
Okay. Hi, I'm John Bonner. I'm just an individual. I oppose the
applicant's request. I think it's hard to come after that gentleman. He put a lot of things so eloquently. But I do think there will be a parking problem. That is probably the most congested area of Montrose, Honolulu and Ocean View. And for my own part, sometimes I sit in the Coffee Bean several hours. I see numerous people on the sidewalk. Okay, I don't know where they go. Maybe they don't go into the businesses. But I do have two suggestions for Montrose business owners. Number one, you could make that first block of Honolulu all pedestrian traffic. No automobile or vehicle traffic. I've seen other neighborhoods do that. I don't know if that would help or not. I don't know. And the other thing is maybe the people in Montrose need to get the word out. Montrose is really a neat place. Because sometimes I talk to people in greater LA and they ask, where do you live? Oh, Montrose. Where's that? They never heard of it. I said, you know where Glendale is? Yeah, what's north of Glendale? Oh, so maybe it's a publicity thing too. And I say there will be a problem with parking. Those are my comments.
Okay, thanks. Colin Lublin. And I also have Jose Romero on the same form. Did you wish to speak also?
Colin is going to address.
Okay. Okay.
Good morning. I'm Colin Lublin. I'm the operator and manager of the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, which is directly across the street from the proposed Starbucks. I have nothing formal prepared, but I do have some informal concerns, so I apologize in advance for the informality of my concerns, but I do believe them valid. I'll bullet point them for ease of understanding. Number one, I'd just like to comment on an earlier comment about the business flow being predicted as predominantly between 8 and 10 a.m. I've operated this location for over 2 years, and I can assure you that our business flow reflects something that is consistent from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. We don't necessarily spike between the early morning hours. We are a destination store as opposed to a commuter store. And in that way, I think we do complement the community. Transitioning into number two, I guess it would pose a lot of comments about parking, but for us as an operator, parking is a challenge throughout the day, not just between 8 and 10 a.m., but throughout the day. We often fill the lot provided by our landlord, which includes a side lot and a back lot, and we often have to educate our customers not to fill the Chase lot, which is directly adjacent, directly west of our building. We fill the street parking, especially during our peak hours. The metered parking out front, we often fill the lot in the back, and certainly somebody commented on the events that take place in Montrose, which includes a farmer's market every Sunday. Those lots do fill up, at least adjacent to our business, which would be adjacent to the proposed Starbucks. I haven't heard anyone mention, although I think it's fair to mention that Honolulu is the direct route for emergency vehicles to go to Verdugo Hills Hospital. And I don't know if the increased traffic would potentially affect that, but it seems like a lot of this is about parking and traffic flow. It seems Honolulu, I think, is a designated route for emergency vehicles to Verdugo Hills Hospital, which is just down the street. Lastly, and third, and more importantly to me, is I've worked a variety of locations for the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. One of the reasons I still work for the company is its ability to still have a homegrown nature. In working approximately 12 stores for this company, I never struggled to mesh with the community as I have with Montrose. And I mean that in a positive aspect, meaning this is a homegrown community. It is tight-knit. It is like a village. It's a beautiful town, but me and my staff have done a lot to mesh with that community directly, including sometimes exceeding my ability to give back to the community. But I have, in the form of donating to Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts, Goodwill, the local Goodwill, the local high schools, including La Crescenta High School, La Cañada High School, as well as local elementary schools like Fremont Elementary. I have coordinated events with the Montrose Shopping Park Association, and I've done that all with pride. And I feel in a certain way I should be facing out because I recognize a lot of these people as just supporters of this community, which I absolutely support. And in many ways I feel that me, as an operator of a coffee shop of a bigger company, that I've allowed that corporate logo to sort of melt away. And I think a lot of my locals, a lot of my customers, my regular customers would agree that we've done well with that. And I guess in conclusion, I don't really question Starbucks' ability to build a beautiful store, to have a beautiful store design. I don't really question that. But really what my concern is, what will it lend to this community? That's all I have to say.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Maureen Palacios, followed by Ruth Tatum.
Good morning. My name is Maureen Palacios, and I own Once Upon a Time Bookstore in Montrose. We are located at 2207 Honolulu in the same block. We are celebrating our 45th year in business and are the oldest children's bookstore in the country. The last time I drove by, the sign called our business district Montrose Shopping Park, not Montrose Food Court or Montrose Restaurant Row, but Montrose Shopping Park. Our retail business is what should continue to be zoned in the corner spot at 2284 Honolulu that our store occupied for a number of years. Yes, Starbucks will bring traffic, but not necessarily the foot traffic that I, as a merchant, would like. Yes, Starbucks probably can afford the rent being charged, but I do have to ask, is it better to have a corporate giant like the omnipresent Starbucks rather than an empty building? However, Starbucks is not needed, but wanted. It does nothing to enhance the uniqueness of our business village district. Would there be anyone from Simi Valley or Santa Clarita or Pasadena driving here just to visit our new Starbucks? My store, Needle in a Haystack, Mountain Rose Gifts, La Perla, the Surf Shop, and many other unique retailers do have people drive from all over Southern California just to shop here. Then they walk down the street, shop, and browse other retailers. That's how retail works. It pulls people in and spins off buyers into other stores. Starbucks is not necessarily a pull, it's a destination. You can find any other coffee provider practically on any other street corner, just like Coffee Bean. You can only eat once, so a restaurant isn't necessarily going to pull, another fast food restaurant is not going to necessarily pull other people into other stores to shop. If we continue to change the zone to fast food restaurant, there will be no more spin-offs to retail. To rebut Mr. Meyer, even though he did not want to change, he said he did not want to change anything, he bought the building, and the 5 adjacent buildings had zoning changes from retail to food for 2 of those 5 buildings since 2006. What makes Montrose special is the lack of an omnipresent, huge corporate giant like Starbucks. Its unique shops need other unique shops and complementary businesses. Having so many food establishments, 12 alone in just the 2200 block, at the expense of retail is not a good mix. Is it vital to have a Starbucks there? Or is it vital to have a retailer? Thank you.
Thanks. Ruth Tatum, followed by Sarkis Garibian.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Tatum, and I live at 3553 Downing Avenue. I'm about a block and a half from the proposed new Starbucks. I have a question about the outside seating area. Is the 354 square feet, does that require parking also, or is that exempt from parking spaces? I couldn't really understand that.
Under the current interpretation that we have now, outdoor dining, if it's adjacent to the street, is exempt or does not require parking.
Okay, so even though 13 people by the Starbucks estimation will be there, they don't need parking. I find that a little confusing and probably not an accurate assessment to what will be needed for parking. And so my concern, obviously, living in the community, in case you can tell, is both the traffic and parking. Broadview now, from TJ's opening, is huge increase in traffic. We almost have police there every day checking speed and health and the parking situation. And so, again, being south of it, I am concerned on how it will impact, the community. And that's all. Obviously, I'm opposed to it, and I appreciate that the businesses have been supportive of Starbucks and been spoken to, but there has not been a lot of outreach to the community. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And the last card I had is Sarkis Caribbean. If there's anybody else who wishes to speak who has not submitted a card, please do so now.
Good morning. I guess this is a bit of an emotional meeting. I'm not sure how your other meetings go, but my wife and I own Color Me Mine, which is located 2280 Honolulu Avenue, which is directly next door to subject property. We previously occupied 2284 Honolulu Avenue. We restored that building. Bruce Meyer is the owner. He has been more than kind to accommodate us with these tough economic times to make the move to a smaller location and to be able to attract somebody that will bring a little more activity to the community. Do we have problem with traffic? Yes. There isn't enough of it. I come to work 11 o'clock every morning. The parking lot mentioned in the south, I can assure you 80% of that is vacant. I go out at noon to get lunch, perhaps 50% of that is vacant. I'm there every day, Monday through Sunday. Through farmers market, I'm there. Starbucks people, if anything, they would have to use the south parking, which is right behind that building. A lot has been said, perhaps out of politics. Things are being taken out of context. I'll take full credit for restoring that floor because I did that. There were 2 layers of tiles over that, laid down in the 50s. Why did I do that? Because I really appreciate what the building offered. And in my discussions with the landlords, they were very adamant about keeping it the way it is, as much as possible to accommodate our current current customers. We have customers that come in. Parking is never an issue. They always comment that it would be nice to have Starbucks there. And not to say anything against your coffee, I do like coffee being coffee. I'm there every morning. Colin is almost a friend of mine. But to have, this is, seriously, I'm talking as a business owner. I'm also a realtor full-time. So I do bring another perspective to this whole thing. Let's be objective. I've been to every single city in California. I do start at Starbucks. What do I see? It's in the middle of a very good community. Has it changed it? I don't think so. I've lived in Glendale since 1979. I've been part of Montrose. The reason why we opened our business in Montrose is because we love what it offers. I've seen their renderings. To their credit, it seems to me that they will be honoring the existing building. And, I really welcome Starbucks over there. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, I have Ludwig Abrahamian.
Hi, my name is Ludwig Abrahamian. I own Ocean View Board Sports. We're the Board Rider store in Montrose. Parking in Montrose is definitely not an issue. We have so much parking, it's unbelievable. I get to work at 11 o'clock. The back space, you can go out and play football back there. There's no one out there. Starbucks coming in, I think it's going to be a great asset to the community. It's going to add foot traffic, which we desperately need. Place is vacant. We need it. I think it's going to be great for the area, and it's a great asset. So that's it. I think Sarkis said it all.
So have you noticed also in the afternoons, like I believe they said
There's no
another
one.
peak
Yeah,
about
1
2,
o'clock.
there's available
there's
space in the back,
Yeah, it's empty.
in the public lot.
Public lot's empty. You can go out there and play football. It's dead.
Okay.
All you have to do is go there and walk through it. You could get a giant bowling ball, roll it down the sidewalk in the middle of the day. You will not hit a soul. It's definitely not what it was. I've been there for 18 years, and it's not getting any better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak who has not submitted a form who would like to speak now? Anybody else? No? All right, then I'd like to call the applicant back for rebuttal.
Thank you, Ms. Stoller. Just a few bullet points and notes that I made, and I'll try to be brief. One thing I failed to mention in my presentation, and it was interesting to see the kind of ratio matches up here for support versus dissension against our project. In the Glendale newspaper, there was a poll that was run online from September through today. Over 500 respondents, and about 65% of those respondents are in favor of our store being located there. Interestingly enough, today about 60% of the people that were here, 62% of the people that were here are supportive of our store. We feel good about that. We certainly don't want to turn our back to folks in the community that don't want us there. We want to embrace them. We want them to feel like we're going there to become part of their community, which we do everywhere we locate in the United States. I think the afternoon and evening peak issue for shops and restaurants is a good marriage. The Coffee Bean manager was correct that there is business throughout the day. We're not stopping business after the morning. We understand our peaks and our cycles. We've been doing this a long time. So I think it's going to be a very nice marriage between retail and restaurant and what we do to operate our business. We will, of course, blend into the community when it comes to the farmers market and all the other community events that happen along Honolulu. We are looking forward to becoming part of that and contributing not only employee partner hours, but also financially to the community. I want to correct the gentleman that first spoke with regard to the Coffee Bean history. We only have 3 stores in the surrounding area. I don't count Sunland as part of this area. We have a store in La Crescenta on Foothill, in La Cañada on Foothill, and at Verdugo on the 2 freeway. We are assuming a lot of risk in this situation. The risks of traffic, the risks of parking, we understand it. We're also going to invest in excess of $600,000 of our company's money into the build-out of this building and also towards the creation of jobs in the community. Also, to correct the gentleman, the article, and I can share it with him afterwards, was from quoting Mr. Hyman, Herb Hyman, not Sonny Sassoon, and it had nothing to do with the flavor of the coffee. It was about business in general. And if we're a category killer, we would be putting them out of business, not impacting them by 10% or less. As for the kind of anti-chain Wall Street versus Main Street, we blend in Main Street everywhere we go in the country. Trader Joe's has a store in La Cañada. Now they have a store in Montrose. Quiznos is there, Coffee Bean's there, Rocky Cola, Carl's is around the corner, Burger King. So, we're not trying to debrand or demidge the area. We just want to blend in and become part of the activity. And I'll let Anthony address the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it is part of our intention to keep the aesthetics and the look of the building as much as possible, and then blend in and use a lot of the positive characters of the space. The flooring that is now on the exterior, since we're pushing back the storefront, that would be maintained, so you get the presence of inside-outside, the connection between the inside-outside of the space. There will be part of the patching of the concrete that's necessary once we actually do that, but it is our intention to match and continue that flooring to have that continuous space. To address the comment about the heavy construction that would actually impact this corner, and part of our design is intentionally done deliberately to not do that, and would require a lot of effort and time to build out the store. Most of our build out is interior, where a lot of noise is actually contained within the space. We are selecting and choosing not to do extensive work to impact the community in that negative manner. So as you can see, our facade really is using and utilizing a lot of the existing character of the building, but enhancing it, and then again, like I said, trying to bring it down to a more pedestrian scale to draw in that foot traffic that I think everybody here holds so deeply true to the community. So blending into the community is our intent, and embracing that activity and that everybody cherishes here in this community. Correct. Well, within
I turned it on.
So within that space, we are still within the property lines. None of our seating actually encroaches into public space or public right-of-way, and that's why we chose to recess our storefront to allow for exterior patio seating that would not impact the traffic flow pattern on the street corner. The paving in that area, the paving within that property line, we are going to do our best to try to maintain as much of that character and that uniqueness of that concrete floor pattern.
Okay, so it'll be distinctive, because that is actually in the community plan also, that when you have outdoor eating areas, that there be some sort of delineation between the public space and the private and decorative paving is suggested. So I'm just making sure that you're going to be consistent with that community plan guideline.
We'll review that again, and we'll make sure that we are in significant compliance of that.
Okay.
I understand.
Sounds good. Is there anything else you would like to add? Nope, that's it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes?
Question for you guys. We have a Starbucks on Pacific and Burchett. What is happening with their parking spaces?
Be happy to talk to you later on that. That's not germane to this project.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
All right, thanks.
Thanks. This hearing, I see no other cards. Everybody who submitted a card has had an opportunity to speak. This hearing is now officially closed. Thank you for coming. And it's now 11:15. Thank you.
Decision made, I guess.
Probably be exempt from design review.
you.